Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. This is Faisal Ahmed, Faculty of English Department, World University of Bangladesh. Now we are in week 10. In this week you will learn summary and background of St. Joan, a play written by George Bernard Shaw. Let's begin. Before we discussing the drama, the play St. Joan written by G.B. Shaw, we need to know who was the real Joan, Joan of Arc, and what was her story, and why she is so famous in Western world, especially in Europe, and specifically in France. So let's know about real Joan of Arc. The real Joan of Arc, based on whom the play St. Joan was written. St. Joan of Arc, or the Maid of Orleans, who was also known as the Maid of Orleans, or in French, Jeanne d'Arc, born in circa or probably date 1412 and died in, she was burnt in 1431. After the trial of the church, is the national heroine of France. She is also a Catholic saint. She was a peasant girl born in the east of France. So as a female, she got some heavenly messages that in her hand she could save her homeland France, and that's why she participated in the war, which is forbidden in religion, as women are restricted from participating in men's matters or men's jobs, that is war or outward activities. So war is a very sensitive thing, so war women are forbidden to go, and she disobeyed the law of religion. That's why she was crucified and burned. Not crucified actually, she was burned to death. So Joan of Arc was burned after the trial. There in the image you can see the real Joan of Arc. Joan said that she had visions from God. In these visions she said that God told her to take back her home. Here the home means her homeland France, which was then under English rule late in the 100 Years' War. In the later slide you will know about the historical 100 Years' War between France and England. Many quick military victories made her famous. In 1430, soldiers of Burgundy captured her and gave her to her English enemies. Joan of Arc has remained an important figure in Western civilization. Famous writers like Shakespeare, Tchaikovsky, Russian writer Tchaikovsky, Mark Twain, American writer, and Voltaire, Italian writer, wrote about her. She appears in video games, television shows, movies, songs, and dances. She is a very famous figure in the Western civilization, and who was also known as the national heroine of France. So here the historical fact, that is the 100 Years' War. You're going to know about the 100 Years' War, which took place between 1337 to 1453, was a series of conflicts during the late Middle Ages between the kingdoms of England and France. It centered primarily on competing claims to the French crown by the English house of Plantagenet and the French house of Valois. Over time, the war encompassed a broader power struggle involving factions from across Western Europe, which was fueled by nascent or growing nationalist sentiment on both sides. There the image for illustrative purpose, the 100 Years of War. It's a painting. The play Saint Joan by George Bernard Shaw. Here the synopsis and the summary of the play. So now, before this one, we just got to know about the background of the play, and now we are going to know the synopsis of the text, which is a literary text, a play written by George Bernard Shaw. The play is set between 1429 and 1431, as the real story happened then, with an epilogue or foreword set in 1456. During this time, the 100 Years' War was raging between England and France, and English forces had occupied a number of French cities and towns. So France was under the rulership of England. So the French freedom fighters, like Bangladeshi freedom fighters in 1971 against Pakistan, fight against English military force to save and get independence of France. As Joan led the French army, so she has been regarded as the national heroine of France. That's why this figure is very important, especially to the French people. The play begins with Joan asking a French nobleman, Robert de Baudricourt, to provide her with armor. I mean, the armor, horse and soldiers, to go to the war and fight against the English armies. Joan is an adolescent girl, Kishori May, from a small country village, but she has had visions of saints, a heavenly message telling her that it is her destiny to lead French forces to victory and ensure that the Dauphin, heir to the throne of France, is officially crowned as king, later who is known as King Charles VII. Robert is hesitant to support Joan, but he gives in when he sees that she is capable of an inspiring man to fight for her. So destiny favored her, and she led the French army and got victory in the war and snatched the independence of France. Joan travels to Chinon, where the Dauphin would be king of France during the 15th century, has set up an informal court. Despite an attempt to trick her, she easily identifies the Dauphin, which further encourages others to see her as guided by God. Joan persuades the Dauphin that she is going to free the city of Orleans, held under siege by English forces, and have him crowned at Reims Cathedral. Leading troops, Joan goes to Orleans, where the French forces are frustrated. They need the winds to change so that they can sail upriver and attack the English from behind. Joan prays, and the wind immediately changes, allowing the French forces to win a triumphant victory. The French victory at Orleans changes the tide of the war, which worries English leaders. Earlier, as Orleans was a very important place, earlier in the war, the English had formed an alliance with the Burgundians. Burgundy is a place, a city in France. So the people of Burgundy is called Burgundians, a French faction, political faction who opposed the royal house to which Charles belonged. So Burgundians were like the Raja Karal Badr in Bangladesh during the 1971 war. Okay, so Burgundians supported English monarchy while they opposed the French monarchy. So they are the rebellious. A French faction who opposed the royal house to which Charles belonged. Warwick, an English nobleman, meets with Cauchon, a Burgundian bishop. Both men agree that Joan is dangerous and must be eliminated. Meanwhile, Charles has been crowned at Reims Cathedral. So the English people, and especially the Burgundians, the homely collaborators of English military, they found that Joan was a threat to the English monarchy. That's why they intrigued to suppress her and made a plot to kill her, and that's why they raised a charge against her in the name of religion. But that was politically intrigued. Meanwhile, Charles has been crowned at Reims Cathedral. France got the victory. Partial victory. Joan is worried because she seems to be becoming unpopular, and several people accuse her of being proud, stubborn, and reckless. With Charles crowned, Joan wants to lead forces to try to take back Paris, but no one supports this plan. Nonetheless, Joan insists that she has to follow God's orders. The action of the play then jumps ahead 2 years to 1431. In the interim, Joan has been captured by Burgundian forces and sold to the English. She is now on trial on charges of her heresy in the court. And during that period, the court was the church, with a number of church officials questioning her. Undaunted, Joan defends her decision to wear men's clothes, and she wore men's clothes to participate in the war. So religiously that was forbidden. And she insists that her voices are truly the voices of divine messengers. And she insisted that she participated in the war after getting the heavenly message from God. She only wavers when she is threatened with execution, at which time Joan signs a confession and recantation. However, she is horrified to realize that even though her life will be spared, she is still going to be imprisoned for life. Faced with this fate, Joan tears up her confession. She is immediately taken out to be executed. Other characters report that she showed great strength and courage during her painful execution. So she fell in a dilemma. That's why she chose execution. The epilogue. So about the epilogue of the play, Saint John by George Bernard Shaw, which was written after writing the play. The epilogue to the play is set 25 years later, and inquiry has been held into Joan's trial, and the charges have been reversed. Joan is now declared innocent. That trial was an injustice to Joan. That's why it was retrialed, and then she proved to be innocent. Her spirit appears in a vision to Charles, who is now successfully ruling as a strong French king. The pair are joined by many other characters, showing that Joan has now been vindicated and that her enemies have been proven wrong. Eventually, a man dressed in 1920s style clothing appears and announces that Joan has been declared a saint. Excited by all of the seeming praise and recognition, Joan suggests that maybe she should return to life. However, all of her seeming allies immediately abandon her, making excuses for why this is not a good idea. At the end of the play, Joan is left alone, wondering when the world will be ready to fully embrace her. So the story is like prophets are not honored at their home. So this is something that, and after, posthumously after her death, the people of the whole earth, especially the European, started to recognize her as saint and respect her. Joan of Arc, introducing to the characters in the play Saint Joan by George Bernard Shaw. So now you're gonna learn, you're gonna introduce to the characters in the play Saint Joan by George Bernard Shaw. The protagonist, Saint Joan of Arc or Saint Joan. Joan is the protagonist of the play. She is born the daughter of a humble farmer, but inspired by divine visions, she becomes an important military leader who plays a decisive role in the Hundred Years' War. The Dauphin, later King Charles VII of France. Charles is the expected heir to the French throne, hence the title Dauphin, but at the start of the play he has not been officially crowned and has been declared illegitimate. With John's help, his father was unknown. There was an alleged charge that his father was unknown. That's why that is illegitimate. With John's help, Charles is crowned as Charles VII and goes on to become a good leader. The Inquisitor, Brother John Lemaitre, a French monk who plays a key role in John's trial. Peter Colchin, Bishop of Beauvais. Colchin is a Frenchman but is part of the Burgundian faction who supported the English army, like the Rajakar in Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971, which means he is allied to the English. He works with Warwick to ensure that Joan will be turned over to the English if she is captured. Richard de Beauchamp, Earl of Warwick, an English nobleman and John's primary opponent of the English side of the war. Though not nearly as concerned about John's heresy against the church as he pretends, he sees the value of paying lip service to this offense as a means of protecting his real interest, the continuation of the aristocratic entitlement that benefits him. John de Stogumber, the chaplain, an English priest. He is an English priest who acts as chaplain to the Cardinal of Winchester and the Earl of Warwick. Initially, he has a passionate hatred of Joan, but after he witnesses her execution, he has a change of heart. De Stogumber goes on to dedicate his life to serving the poor and advocating for religious tolerance. He realized his mistake and wrongdoing. That's why he turned from bad into good person. and dedicated his whole life to serving the poor and advocating for religious tolerance. So Saint John was a victim of religion, was a victim of politics, English and French politics, and also was a victim of the betrayers, French betrayers, who supported the English people, though they are French national, and also very high-ranking people, people of the church, like bishop. Okay. The Gentleman from 1920, a man dressed in clothing of the 1920s who appears in the Epilog. So here the picture you can see the writer George Bernard Shaw. So this is not the Gentleman from 1920. Here the picture is only for illustrative purpose. Okay. So the character is a different one. A man dressed in clothing of 1920s who appears in the Epilog. He has traveled back in time to 1456 to tell the other characters that Joan will eventually be canonized as a saint. Canonization is an official recognition of a person to be saint in the church, Christian church. Robert de Baudricourt, a French nobleman who gives Joan soldiers and arms so that she can travel to the Dauphin. Robert Stewart, a household servant who encourages Robert to meet with Joan. Bertrand de Paulendy, a French nobleman and soldier who is friends with Robert de Baudricourt. He believes in Joan and offers to go with her to the Dauphin. Georges, Duc de la Chamoille, Constable of France, a French nobleman who is close to the Dauphin, the king. Dauphin is the king of France, the Charles VII, later known as Charles VII. Regnault de Chartres, the Archbishop of Reims, a French churchman who crowns Charles as king and later rebukes Joan for being proud and stubborn. Gilles de Rais, Blue Bear, a French nobleman and military leader. Captain La Hire, a French soldier who strongly believes in Joan. Duchess de la Trémoille, a French noblewoman and the wife of Trémoille. Jean, Comte de Dunois, Bastard of Orleans, a French military leader who is in charge of the attack of Orleans. Like the Rajakar al-Badr, okay? You can understand better in that way. John de Stivet, Canon of Bayeux, a French church official who plays a key role in Joan's trial. Thomas de Courcelles, the Canon of Paris, a French church official involved in Joan's trial. Brother Martin Ladvenu, a monk present at Joan's trial. The Christian religious people, monk. He will go on to become a strong advocate to have her reputation restored. The executioner, the man who carries out Joan's execution and later appears in the Epilog. English soldier, a common English soldier of lower class origins. He gives Joan a cross made out of sticks during her execution and later appears in the Epilog. Here are some glossary you should know to understand the text better. In the play Saint John, written by George Bernard Shaw. Affliction meaning suffering, apparitions, visions or spirits, abstemious, tending to eat or drink only in small amounts, assessors, judges, bourgeoisie, families and individuals who are not landowners but who make money through professional occupations such as banking, law, or medicine. They could range from middle class to quite high class and tended to be bourgeoisie. So who are well educated. This word is Russian and French as well. Cassock, a garment owned by a priest, celestial, heavenly or godly, chivalry, good manners, especially courtly treatment of women, contemplation, deliberation or thoughtful reflection, consternation, warrior distress, contemptuously, disapprovingly, coronation, the ceremony of crowning a queen or king, eccentric, unusual or unexpected, ecclesiastical, religious, related to the ceremonies and practices of an official church, endured, tolerated, excommunication, the act of someone being cast out from an official religion. They will no longer be seen as a member of the community and will be forbidden from participating in religious rituals. Fatalistically, accepting of all events as part of fate and destiny. Imperil, put in danger. Implacably, cold-heartedly. Impudence, rudeness or disrespect. Incorrigible, stubborn or unwilling to change. Incredulous, unbelieving or skeptical. Magisterially, showing or having great authority. Mendacious, false, penance, self-punishment or atonement. Personage is someone who is very important or has elevated position. Tyrant, tower. Usurping, seizing power from a rival. Wealth or confusion, worthies, important people. And that's all for this week. We will learn more about the drama St. Joan by G.B. Shaw in the next lesson in the next week. Thank you and bye-bye.